as we wait for this green light with a left turn indicator to finish pumping all these guys out of here to actually make my way over there. Something has crossed my mind. Something has been on my mind, which I'm not a huge fan of. Right? Doesn't really get my gears turning. Doesn't really get my pistons engineing. And what that is kind of, I mean, it's always a cycle, right? It's like a circulation of science and ego and like passion and like calculated approaches to your sets. But one thing I cannot get behind is basically anti-bro science. It's basically can be boiled down to that one phrase, anti-bro science. Now, maybe I don't mean anti-bro science. I might just mean anti-bro mentality. So to describe that, and what I'm really referencing is like, dude, it's the TikTok posts where guys are hating on the pump, right? Guys are hating on a dedicated arm day. You know, we're getting, right now, there's kind of a phase of really hyping up upper lower, right? Doing an upper body day and a lower body day. Or, what are the other ones? Upper, lower, or yeah, it's, and this is like minute. This is me just kind of saying this based off of all the TikToks I've been seeing. But it's like, it's, you know, it's just so silly. It's kind of, it's really just kind of fad based. So maybe it's not even worth getting into. But I mean, I can't just stand idly by and see guys trying to slander the pump, right? I mean, that's just not going to work for me. That's a call to action. So that's kind of just a little something I want to put out there, right? Do not fall for any of this. The pump is meaningless propaganda. Frankly, that's, oh my goodness. It's insane, you know? So that's what I'm focusing on with today's arm day. Obviously, purely being pumped is not the whole equation. Otherwise, you'd never have to do any kind of heavy sets or work on your progressive overload at all. You know, all I could do is come in and do like 20-pound dumbbell curls and then, you know, 30-pound like single arm tricep extensions back to back for like, you know, 25 or 30 minutes straight. My arms would probably be pumped to hell. But that wouldn't be a legit lift, you know. So I guess you might be onto something, a touch, right? Obviously, it's not all about finishing your workout with a good pump, but it really is just kind of a like a validation that you did have a good workout, and that everything you did outside of the workout was in place. If I'm not well rested, the pump's going to suffer. If I'm not well hydrated or well fed, or at least, you know, reasonably fed, the pump is going to fucking suffer. And if I don't actually train hard, guess what? No pump for me. So it's not necessarily as though being pumped up means you're growing, means you're stimulating your muscle perfectly. But if you are stimulating your muscle well, and you were well recovered, and you actually did everything, and like you had a, you know, you got your tunes playing, or you were going like a, you know, earbuds-less raw dogs kind of workout, when, you know, whichever one kind of gets you going. But if all of that stuff was in place and you went nuts, then you should be pumped at the end of it. So I think it may just be a little bit of a self-soothing type of mentality to think to yourself, oh, well, the pump doesn't really matter, when, you know, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not drinking, you know, more than maybe 3 cups of water a day, you definitely don't have any electrolyte supplements. It's, you know, so all that's to say is, at least as far as I'm concerned, a good lift is going to be coupled with a good pump, which is what I'm aiming for with today's arm day, you know. Now, I've definitely gotten a bit more complex with my approach. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm not just purely thinking about, okay, I want to thrash my triceps on push downs and dumbbell curls. Like, I am thinking about it a little bit more complicated than that, because now I don't just necessarily look at sets as like, okay, which one can I go the heaviest on, which I definitely used to. I mean, that was my approach for, I mean, fuck, not even that long ago. You know, go back a year and you'll probably see an arm day with the first set of triceps being the full stack with like 4 plates or 3 plates. Oh my goodness. slapped on the side of it, and I'm doing like it's almost pulling my feet off the ground. It was that heavy. But now I'm not necessarily looking at it with such a limited view, right? Because when I'm thinking about all these sets, especially for triceps, buys I get a little bit more like open with, because there's not that many ways to do a curl. But with triceps, I really do try to hit a couple styles. Right? A light squeezing set with much more emphasis on that contracted position, something like a rope extension, or even a heavier set with a lot of emphasis on that squeeze position. Now that could be like a like a dip machine, because I can load the stack and move the weight around and still have a really good contraction at the bottom. And then maybe if I want to switch to something more stretch focused, do some kind of bent over overhead extensions with the rope or the V-bar, like little things like that. So usually I want my tricep days to at least hit a couple of those different styles, just because it's like if you're going toe to toe with somebody, unless for whatever reason there's like a perfect weak spot or something, you'd probably want to smack them upside the head, the body, the legs, little things like that. Don't just be so one-dimensional, right? Not to make that fighting analogy think that I'm ever in any kind of scuffles, but kind of just using it as a little bit of a logic explanation. So triceps first. I might dabble with a little bit of a superset at the end, like maybe some kind of tricep bicep alternating superset, like 10 reps of push downs, 10 sets of curls, something like that, just as a finisher to get my whole arms pumped up. But yeah, I'm thinking all triceps first, kill them, move on to bis, and then have a cheeky pose down and come back to the house and eat something. So far, I've had about, I think, 1,300 calories, so I do have I've got enough left for a pretty reasonable post-workout meal. But let's not think about that. That's going to be probably an hour or maybe 2 hours away, including the post-gym yap session. So I think no more explaining it. Let's just go make triceps happen. Yeah, I've got a bit of a bad habit of not showing the warm-up process of how these lifts actually begin, because it's not negligible. Like, I don't just run up and start doing a heavy set of like machine dips or something. There is kind of a preset process, but usually I just kind of glance over it because there's not much to see. Right? So triceps is first. This is really all I'm going to do. So this is 17 and a half pounds or so. Enough where I can, feel some tension. I feel like I'm squeezing, but not so much that I'm like, you get the gist of warming up, right? Start with something light, gradually get yourself exposed to heavier and heavier weight. And then once you're ready, do whatever that first working set ends up being. But not much of a intricate warm up necessary for triceps. Really, it's just kind of, I mean, if I was starting with rope pushdowns, I could just do light rope pushdowns, a few sets of like 20, 30, 50, whatever, until I feel like I'm ready to actually, start working set number one. But what I'm not trying to do is tire myself out. This is not work, right? These are not working sets. Even though I'm doing reps, it's purely for the sake of warming up my elbows, my triceps, everything else, so that when I do set number one, I can pick a reasonable weight and not hurt myself from being cold, right? But I think we get the gist of what a warm-up is. So I'll camp out here for a minute, and then we can start set number one. Started last arm day with heavy tricep dips. So let's basically flip that approach upside down. Start with some light-ish squeezing crossbody extensions. And I say light-ish because, I can feel it. 30 pounds with one arm, that's not zero. But it is enough where I'll be able to manage pretty controlled reps and really feel my triceps kind of loosen up as I come to the stretch position. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. One more at least. Okay. Let's go do some rope extension, but basically the same style of set. And I'm not even talking a heavy rope set. This is only half the stack. So the stack goes up to 97, basically 95, 47 and a half. So actually this is even lighter weight than I was just doing over there with that kind of cross body extension. But I can squeeze so hard at the bottom and build up a lot of fatigue down here that, I mean, by rep 10, well, I don't want to underestimate my strength, of course, but let's just say I'm not going to be doing 30 reps here. No. 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 Okay. Oh, fuck. Yeah. One more of those, and then I think the dip machine is calling my name. Oh my God, okay. Holy crap. Yeah, let's go do some machine dips next. And honestly, if those are two good sets, I might just call tries at 6. I think this will be a perfect alternative because the machine's occupied. So instead, let's just make this happen right here. Oh, yeah, okay. All right. I think the dip machine's open now. Let's do one finisher with the dips, and then I think it'll be time to curl something. No. 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 Oh my God, okay. Oh. All right. Let's grab some dumbbells. Whew. So I was almost tempted by habit to start with a really heavy set of regular dumbbell curls, standing, alternating. But, you know, as much as I like that, sometimes, which I do, I'm not saying I don't, I think it's a little much because 2 sets of like a heavier or whatever you're capable of curling, 2 sets of like as heavy as you can go for 8 or 9 or so. It's not just pure bicep. I mean, you're kind of used in your traps. I mean, I can feel my upper back gets a little sore after a day of like basically just curling too heavy. So instead, I think I want to start with something a bit more isolated. So bent over concentration curls, plus a strap to keep my forearm out of it. Absolutely perfect. Right side first, then left side, since my right bicep's a little bit behind. So if I hit failure here, but I could get maybe an extra 2 reps here, I just call it and match them. So this one gets the same amount of work. But so with these, I like doing some self-assistance, which honestly, I feel like I should be asking for some more assisted sets during these lifts. It's been a little while since I've done any, but with a movement like this or a preacher, it's so easy to literally help yourself. So, you know, if I get 11 good ones and I can barely get to here, I can do an extra 5 by giving myself some assistance to the top and then ride in the negative. So that's my plan, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh man. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Those were a good 3. Let's move on to something a little more squeeze focused, I think. So I should be doing this more, but there's just not an awesome area to do it over there by those free weights. But it's doing a regular curl. And instead of standing up, put your foot in front of you and then lean your ass into a wall. So really it's just a mitigation of swinging. So not too heavy. I'm just going to do the 85, but these are going to be very squeeze focused. Like I'm not just going to be burning out reps and building fatigue like that. Like I want like a momentary like at the top of every rep. So I think some kind of song from Lamb of God will get me going, and then make this shit happen. Yeah, there we go. And then slightly wider grip than what I would do with like an easy bar, because I kind of have to, I sort of have to make up for the fact that my wrists don't like to be bent here, right? So if it's a straight bar, I got to kind of jump out a little more. But I feel a lot of outer biceps, so I like this. Good way to change it up. All right. Okay. Oh. One more exactly like that. Okay. Oh my gosh. I think that is it. Let's just turn this freaking camera around and pose down right here. All right. Arms complete very quickly too. That was, well, I can't even remember. Let's just try to pose down. I don't want to lose any blood flow that I've already gained arms wise, but reasonably sweaty, which isn't just because I went extra hard. The sweatshirt will do that to you. It's literally in the freaking name. But let's get this exposure down just a touch. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the freak factor has finally flipped around into the upswing. So no longer do I feel as though I'm getting flatter and smaller as I diet down. Now, the leaner I get, the bigger I'm gonna look, especially if I can pumped up during these pose downs, because extra leanness, anyway, there, a little background character back there, but the extra leanness is now making my proportions crazier, right? So instead of just, more abs per se, now it's like actually smaller waist, bigger looking arms. strains and veins and striations all over the place. So no point just freaking talking about it. We're looking right at it. So let's just run through a couple classics here. If that thing will stop bugging out. Let's, right. There we go. All right. Oh. 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 Oh my goodness. All right. So after one more obligatory, most muscular, yeah, I think it's time for us to get out of here. Let's freaking roll. Arms complete. There we go. All right. Now, this is basically 100% motivated by a TikTok clip I just watched, where it was a quote of a guy basically just dogging on himself. So I think it's worth mentioning. If your primary motivation for coming into the gym and grinding is derived from like looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking, God, I need to work on this. I need to work on this. Oh, this isn't big enough. This is not. Oh man, I'm not jealous. I'm not very jealous. Like, obviously, that is certainly, a motivating mindset, or at least, if it's working for you, then it is working in a way. But at least from my side of the fence, even when I was 160 coming up, when I see myself pumped up, I think, holy shit, this is fucking nuts. Do a couple of side triceps or whatever else. See yourself just a couple percentage points bigger on whatever muscle group you just pumped up. And then just try to ride that hype, man. So that's what I've always liked. I've gone on pretty long talks about this for a while now. It kind of comes up every so often. But it's like, dude, depending on where your hype is coming from, can seriously play into how long I don't want to say last, but I guess I don't mean last, but like how long you're going to be able to keep up legit, consistent effort. Because, in the beginning, everybody's kind of had a classic trope of like, it's not the 90s anymore. I don't think anybody's getting like broken up with for the jock. That's a little bit of an older kind of situation. But, anything like that, somebody's dogging on you for being a little overweight or whatever, like, that's a pretty classic trope of like, all right, I'm going to start beefing up. I'm going to show those fucking chumps. Just wait until I'm jacked. Right? Which, nothing wrong with that, right? But eventually, that guy should get to a point where it's like, oh, I was working out for this reason, but now I realize I just like it. Whoop-de-doo. Keep going like that. But you see it a lot. I've had a couple of guys where, it's you come into the gym, they're all kind of happy, jokey, like normal, and then you walk in one day and they're locked in, they're serious. But it's not a seriousness. It's not a seriousness that's just derived based on like their like internal drive and like motivation. It's kind of it's like external, because it's just a reactive reaction to something that might have gotten under their skin in their day-to-day whatever. So that's where I've always liked to think about it as kind of a long-term type thing, because it's like, what are you working out for exactly? Because ideally you want to have a source of motivation that keeps you at least working on making gains, be it bulking up, cutting down, maybe working on strength, maybe switching up your training, working on athleticism. Fast forward like a few years, I'm sure I'm going to go through a whole plyometric phase of like working on my agility once I've decided I've had enough size wise. But of course that's That's the distant future. So, as long as you're working towards something, it's pretty cool, right? You got another day tomorrow to work towards it. But if your motivation is like, okay, I didn't want to show them, I want to get to this, I want to reach this specific level, and then not even just like for those reasons, but thinking about it as though, okay, once I reach this level, once I hit this number bench, once I hit this metric, then I'll be satisfied. It just doesn't work, man. That's not how we're really supposed to be wired, right? It's not necessarily about the catch. It's about the chase, So even I don't know if I was just maybe lucky, because I kind of have always thought like this about the working out, or I mean, half of it was probably just delusion, and I mean that in like a good way, because I mean I had no doubt in my mind when I was a beginner that I'd be able to grow and make progress. That wasn't even a question. The only question was like, okay, how hard can I really go here, and then keep at it. But I never really had of course I had like numbers goals. Like I remember hitting my first 315 bench or doing 225 for the first time. I had Mark record it on like my iPod. That was way back when, right? Like I can still remember one time we went to visit our grandparents, and me and Mark went to go work out at the Y. Like this was early. Like this was less than a year into me really getting into it. I remember I had a set of flat bench 185, and I only got 5 reps. Like I can still remember way back kind of then. But I never it never really clicked for me to think like, okay, I'm not as strong as I want to be yet. Fuck. It was more so like, okay, I want to get stronger, or I want to get bigger, I want to get better, I want to, and then just knowing that I was on track to getting those results. That's what kind of got me excited. And maybe it's just kind of a chip on your shoulder kind of thing. Because if you're judging like somebody's workout progress, or basically kind of skill and experience, then people have been doing it for longer are obviously going to be bigger. They've been working out they've got more experience, they've got more time, they've physically been working on their build for, I mean, upwards of 3 times as long as you had. So maybe it was just me trying to make a little bit of sense of that in my mind. But I never tried to think like, oh crap, that guy's so much bigger than me. It was always, okay, that guy's just been working out for longer than me, right? Just wait, right? Just wait for it. I'll catch up. And that's, I think that's a good way to look at it, because it's not so much about where you're at, because where you're at physically on a day-by-day basis shouldn't necessarily have complete overbearing power over how you feel about yourself, just in general, right? I mean, let's say, really knocking on wood here, meteorite comes crashing down, basically explodes in front of me, both legs, imagine just totally wrecked, by some kind of freak accident. I'm probably going to be a bit upset about it, right? But if I had to take months or even like a year off working out, and I suddenly had to shrink down to getting more like a regular dude size, I mean, if I didn't work out for like a full year bedridden style, then yeah, I mean, I'd probably drop down to like sub 200, right? But I would hope that wouldn't completely thrash my mind, because I'd still be able to say, all right, once I get back into training, I'll be able to build this kind of stuff back up. But even looking at it on a more like realistic approach, barring natural satellite decimation, like if you're not as lean as you want to be, there's no point crying about it. Take action, put yourself on a trajectory to get that lean. So frankly, if I'm I'm cutting down right now, if I can look at the scale and look at the numbers as I've tracked them and think, oh shit, all right, I'm down 1.5 pounds this week, I'm on fucking track, man, then that's perfect. That gets me fucking excited, because I know that I'm on track to reach the goals I'm aiming for. So if I've only got more like 12 or I think 15 or so pounds to drop. So plus I'm already kind of on, well, not even kind of, I'm on the leaner side of things, so it's a bit easier for me. But if you've got a bigger challenge, if you got 50 pounds to lose, if you got 100 pounds to lose, being on that trajectory of 1 pound, 2 pounds a week, that should be pretty fucking motivating, and that should really get you excited, because then it's no longer a question of if. It's no longer a question of like, oh man, I wonder what it would be like if I was back to, 190 lean like I was a couple years ago. I wonder, like, oh, I can do that. It's going to take a while, but it's not a mystery, right? So that's why I really love hyping up all the calorie counting and cardio and everything else, because that takes away the what if, and it simply turns it into, a step-by-step process to be taken, which nobody's fucking exempt from. Right? I mean, you show me somebody who is losing weight, eating 5,000 calories per day, and I'll show you I'll show you a pig flying at Mach 3. Right? See what I'm saying? Both, you get what I'm getting at there. So it's like, it's really just if you put in what it takes to get whatever the results you're aiming for is, then once you're on that trajectory, you're really just waiting. So that's what I like about the working out. It's not, well, there's some luck involved. There's most certainly some luck involved genetically, but it's not like somebody is going to gain 1,000,000% more muscle than somebody else. Like, as much as some people can be a bit more just, I don't even want to say naturally, have like a natural aptitude for the working out, but as much as somebody might have it a little easier genetics wise, it's not like that's an absolutely fucking, no holds barred, like, okay, you can never work out ever, bro. Sorry, you got bad fucking genetics. Like, it's never that serious, right? So frankly, that's another thing where it's like taken on the chin and say, well, fuck my genetics, man. I mean, all the top, basically every fucking top bodybuilder, dude, or at least not all of them, but some of these guys, that's all they're saying. I didn't have the genetics to do this, but I ended up pushing through it relative to their peers, and of course they would fucking know it, right? If they, I mean, you're comparing somebody like, like, I don't know, to watching, Kevin Levrone basically just beef up 80 freaking pounds in his off seasons. Like, it's, it's not necessarily the fairest thing there, but the rules are still pretty much ubiquitous to anybody. Eat your meals, train hard, recover, and wait. So as long as those pieces are in place, you may as well be opening with a lifter's gambit, and it's simply a question of making sure you keep making the right moves over time, and before you know it, boom, pump mate. So, plan for tomorrow with legs. Well, I'll see how my quads feel. If I can tell my quads are still feeling a bit fatigued from last leg day, then I'll just make it a hamstring only lift. But I mean, right now, plus on the cardio, they didn't really feel too fatigued. Maybe just taking a quad day, or the quad portion off every other lift might be okay. But we'll see. So hamstrings are 100% going to get pumped up tomorrow, and quads is a solid TBD. TB freaking D. So until then, it's almost Thanksgiving. If you're bulking up, I'm jealous. I'm a little bit jealous, right? You get a big ass meal, you get to enjoy the whole thing to the fullest extent. I'm gonna have probably a little bit of a scrappier plate, especially for my size, but it just comes with the territory. So if you're dieting down, try not to go too crazy. But if you do, you're not totally screwed. Just call it a refeed and get back on track. So I'll see you tomorrow for legs, and I'm going to try to make sure I get a good night's rest beforehand. Frankly, it already feels like it's 10 o'clock at night, even though it's 6:15. Has it always been this dark this early? I really don't remember it like this. But either way, I'll see you tomorrow for legs.